Welcome back to Always Needing Improvised Media Explanations, episode 23. I'm your co-host, Grenchler, and with me is the aquatic wonder,
Wooper, the best Pokemon ever designed by Game Freak. Quagsire is an abomination and a sin.
But what about Scruffy? Scraggy.
Scraggy.
That's
Yeah,
right.
He's my second favorite.
The hardest working Pokemon of all time.
That's right. What are we here to discuss today, Grenchler?
We are here to discuss the winners and losers
Of winter 2018?
Yeah, of the winter 2018.
Anime season.
Exactly.
Thank God it's over. Spring soon. Spring very soon. Spring season's already started, but
Yes.
we're delaying our discussion of a whole bunch of premieres from spring until like 5 days from now. I don't know when it'll be uploaded, but...
Yeah, because we'll have there's the last show that we want to watch airs on like the 12th or the 13th, doesn't it?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's why.
The new Bones show about dragons,
Yep.
written by Mari Okada. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's like the queen of anime melodrama. That's how people refer to her.
I do enjoy my melodramas.
Do you?
No.
Okay. Well, hopefully the Bones animation will rescue it for you.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch like 10 or 11 of those shows and pick 4 or 5 of them to cover. But before we do that, we have to wrap up the winter season.
We also have something that's going to be our old show.
Oh yeah, but is that still a secret?
I guess it's still a secret.
We better keep it a secret as long as possible because people who love that franchise are going to rage when they find out we're watching it out of order.
Right.
Gee, I wonder what anime franchises fans would rage if you watched the installments out of order. What could it possibly be?
Like 12 things.
No, I'm thinking of one in particular, and I'm sure other people are too. You guys will find out for sure in a week, though.
Dragon Ball?
I
Do
don't
they get
I don't-
mad if you watch it out of order? I don't know.
think Dragon Ball fans even think. I don't know.
They just consume.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, what's first?
Darling in the Franxx, which isn't done. But
That's right. That's one show that might be carrying over to the next season of the podcast. We'll see. It has to earn its place. Kind of like Ancient Mage's Bride failed to get picked up for the winner
for this
for us,
season. Yep.
despite entering its second core at that time. So, Franxx, we are going to talk about episodes 12 and 13
Yep.
because we've been away for, we took a week off, another break.
Yep.
Family reasons.
Oh, that family.
A lot of people are talking about these episodes, 13 in particular, as like a game changer, like revolutionizing this show. So let me get your take on that, first of all.
Well, speaking from what I knew about anime,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I guess you could call it a curveball just from the way the show's been written the rest of the time.
Okay, in what way is it a curveball?
Well, I mean, everything's just every episode has been really formulaic. Every character has been as one-dimensional as humanly possible. And I realize now as I'm saying that they still are, even after 13.
Exactly. Yeah, so how much of a curveball really was it? How much of a game changer can it have possibly been?
I don't think I guess it really wasn't. I enjoyed the episode. I liked seeing, that look back. I watched these episodes out of order. I watched
you didn't
13
have to. You didn't
and
have to
then
admit
12.
to it. You didn't have to admit to that.
What? I own my mistakes.
Okay, well, that makes one of us.
That's what makes me learn as a human.
Yeah. Well, I mean, episode 13, it's the big flashback. It's pretty self-contained.
Yeah.
The reason that we see any of that is because at the end of episode 12, when that little red
Spectre
manifestation of 02's energy is gripping Hiro around the throat, he like flashes back. I guess he regains his lost memories.
They're like, I think one of them at the start of episode 13 says that the depths of their subconsciouses are like intertwining or something, and that that's dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
And so what we can gather from this, though, is that Hiro's memory has been wiped at least once.
Yeah, well, we already knew that because remember the Mitsuru episode where we first learned I mean, we saw it again in episode 13, but we first learned that Mitsuru had taken those elixir injections
Right.
in order to
have a better score and be a better pilot.
right. So he could stay with Hiro, who he really looked up to.
Right.
And then Hiro didn't remember him after Mitsuru came back from those tests and was like, all right, I've powered up and we're going to be best friends now, right?
Who are you?
Yeah. So we already knew that Hiro's memory had been wiped, but we actually did not see that in episode 13.
No.
We only felt like the disconnect between himself in the present, not remembering this stuff, and then him flashing back to it. Then, we come back to him. They're still in the fight at the end, and he remembers. So it is clear that his memory's been wiped. But I thought at the end of episode 12, when episode 12 is the garden episode. They all go there, and it's really the way the show does it is just so stupid. Like, oh, we got to round you all up and take you back to the place where you were as kids so that we can run some tests on 02. And some of you, like one or two of you apart from her, maybe, I don't know. Let's just take the characters back to where they grew up so that we can do a flashback. That was the reason that they took them back there. But there wasn't a good excuse supplied by the show. I didn't even want a good reason. I just wanted a decent excuse. We didn't even get that.
Because I guess the reason and the excuse is they're following 02 around at this point. I think Ichigo actually says that out loud.
What?
That we're basically just following 02 around at this point.
Okay. I don't really...
They're dragging us along with her.
Well, that's certainly what the show's doing. She's a central character. And who cares? Franxx has done a good job of giving the spotlight, shining the limelight on one character here and another character here. In fact, most of them have had their own little standalone episodes, kind of.
They're usually duos, the two partners, essentially.
Yeah. Well, Zorame's episode was just him.
Yeah.
And Mitsuru's episode was also about Futoshi and Kokoro. So they do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And some of them have been successful. Some of them I haven't enjoyed as much. But despite the fact that it can share the wealth at times, Hiro and 02 are the main characters.
Yeah.
We get a flashback episode. It's centered on them.
Mm-hmm.
They're the best stamen and the best pistol.
Best boy and best girl.
In the world. Except for those people in the white uniforms.
The nines.
Right. And she
was one of them.
She being 02 used to be one of them. She's called 9 Iota. That's what that main the leader of the white guys.
Right.
Leader of the white guys.
Leader of the white men.
I don't remember his name if we got it. The blonde one.
You do get it, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah. He's I've forgotten everything about him and all the stuff that he said. I know he revealed something crazy to Ichigo in episode 12. Do you remember what that was? Because the first time that he says it to her, you don't hear what he says. You just see his mouth moving. It reminded me of
all of her. She's had over 100 partners, and they've all died.
Oh, right, yeah. But we already knew. We didn't have the figure 100 stamen pistols. What's the guy? The guy's the stamen, right?
I think so.
Oh God.
Whatever.
I apologize to my.
The guy is the penis.
My 6th grade life science teacher. I didn't remember anything you taught me, Mrs. I don't even remember her name.
Yep. I don't remember my science grade teacher.
Your science grade?
I had a whole grade that was just science.
Speaking of kids in class, that's what the garden where they go back to. You see a whole bunch of kids taking tests, and in the flashbacks you see them, Hiro and all of his buds.
Right.
You see them taking tests. In addition to being put in that little astronaut gravity wheel,
yeah,
and running on a treadmill and all that, getting shot up with
elixir
injections,
drugs.
Yeah, drugs that'll make you into a dinosaur.
Apparently,
if you go too hard in the Franxx.
Going hard in the motherfucking Franxx.
Did you see at the end of 12 when 02 is going into beast mode or whatever it's called? It's beast mode in Evangelion.
Right. It's berserk mode or
yes,
something.
That's right.
They're, I think they're called literally the same thing.
Maybe in Japanese the word is the same. I don't know for sure. Berserk mode isn't a concept that was introduced in Eva until the rebuilds which you still haven't seen.
I thought they. Oh right, we were watching someone else's sub.
What?
Never mind.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I forget what we're talking about now, though.
The concept of berserk mode.
Yeah, but before that,
We see 02 goes berserk.
Yeah.
With
I don't remember. Yeah, me neither. Episode 13, I think, is the bigger of these two. It's the more impactful because 12 is just setting up for the big old.
12 is setting up 13,
flashback.
essentially.
So, is it a game changer? Is it a revelation? Is it the best episode so far? I don't think it's any of those. Like, we always knew that something was up with 02, that she wasn't human. So now we know that actually, that's a good question. Was she human?
I don't think so.
Because Dr. Franxx was experimenting on her.
Yes.
That's how he's like, I've never seen someone who's taken so well to the medicine or who's had this kind of reaction to it. So maybe she was a human child and that's how she reacted to his treatment, his medicine.
Turned into a Klaxosaur.
Yeah. Because she was kept at the same facility as all the other kids.
Right. Also, the Nines mentioned that essentially they mentioned offhand that they're not human.
I don't remember that either.
Because they refer to humans as a separate group than themselves.
Oh, okay.
Like humans are like such simple creatures or weak-minded or whatever. People who aren't human always talk down to humans in anime.
Yeah, that's true. And
So
in
it's possible
superhero
that
fiction,
they're more successful versions of what they tried to do to 02.
Yeah, maybe. I'm kind of assuming that all the nines are like 9 and below on that, because that's what Hiro explains in as part of his flashback, is that the lower your number, the more promise you have as a potential parasite.
Right, and if they're 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Right.
he's probably 1.
The main guy.
So each.
No way is he Ichi. That's because wouldn't they save that character for like the end?
Maybe. I mean, we've only seen him twice now.
Yeah.
And we're halfway through.
We are halfway through. Finally, something big is going on. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. The Sorification at the end of episode 12. I apologize for like a minute of awkward pauses and ums earlier when we were trying to figure out.
I can cut those out.
Okay, well, do whatever you want, but it's Sorification when Hiro's being like choked out by the red evil version of Zero
You
Two.
see those diagrams of them on the screen, and it's just like blue lines
and
going through them.
someone literally says the Sorification is beginning. Like he's gonna
It has begun.
He's gonna turn into a Klaxosaur. So that's what we thought the 02 was. She was a Klaxosaur.
Right.
And maybe she has blue blood. And when Klaxosaurs have blue blood.
Right.
So she obviously has maybe she is one. Maybe she's been injected with their DNA and stuff, and that's how parasites are made.
I think we're also
we
glossing
saw her
over
in
the
a-
storybook.
What?
The storybook?
I remember it. What about it?
Well, it's essentially 02. You know,
Oh yeah, of course.
made a deal with the devil to be human.
This
allowed
shows-
E to do.
There's no subtlety. There's no subtlety here.
I tried to look if that was like an actual like folklore tale or something. No.
Well, the story of the red Oni and the blue Oni is an actual tale in Japanese, maybe not mythology, but it's like a folk tale. And 02 is obviously the red Oni. We see her as a red Oni or like a red demon, red ogre. In this episode, she's like a little baby one. She's making all sorts of little baby ogre noises like
Meh.
I guess we were supposed to find that cute. It was sort of cute, but it was also strange. I didn't really feel too bad for her. She was being mistreated and stuff, but I don't care about 02 at all. So
You don't care that they're torturing children?
that's bad.
How dare you?
Right. Yeah, I know. It's problematic. Everything's problematic. I thought, I don't know. I thought Hiro was some kind of clone or something, or some kind of test tube baby. Remember we've been talking about that for what seems like months now that
Right,
something's
and
different about
what's
him.
it? Blonde-haired girl was kind of brought up that question in episode 12.
Kokoro,
Yeah.
the one who's obsessed with babies and stuff.
Yeah. It's like, is that really where we came from?
Yeah. But one reason that recently popped up, in fact, in episode 12, that kind of made me think, oh, yeah, Hiro is for sure a clone or some sort of test tube creation, a Petri dish kid, is when 02 says to him, you're not my darling. I'm just using you. I'm trying to reunite with my actual darling. Remember when she says that at the end of episode 12? I mean, you watch them out of order, so you should remember since it would be fresher in your mind.
Well, they were the first two things I watched. Then I watched 6 other shows.
Right. But she says to him, like, I'm only using you. You're just fodder, and I'm trying to reunite with my actual darling, like my real partner. So I thought, oh, Hiro is her real partner, or was, but this is a different version of him, and he's a clone, or Hiro's DNA was used to create this new version. So that's why in the first episode 02 licks him and says, "Oh, you taste good," or something like that. She sniffs him, maybe. I think she licks him and says, "You taste good," or "You taste familiar." Like he would taste the same, being the same type of person, like being in the same body or having the same body.
Maybe.
But it just looks like his memory was erased.
Yeah.
And at the end of 13, he's like, "You're the girl with the picture book."
Right.
And she turns around like, "You're the boy?" Or maybe she knew and she was just upset that his memory was gone.
Even though you guys look exactly the same and have the same hairstyle and the same voice.
And the same voice actor even.
How could you not tell? Is there not enough continuity for you?
So they knew each other as kids. They were like childhood friends and they're destined lovers and stuff. I don't know. I didn't really see this as a big ramping up in the course of the show.
Yeah. I understand that.
I wasn't too interested in it.
I think people felt as a ramp up of sorts. Maybe not so for the show, but for their characters, and since they're the focal point of the show.
But is it? Have their characters really? I mean, they recognize each other now, I suppose. What's going to be the outcome of that?
I don't know. Maybe he turns into a Klaxosaur.
Yeah, because the Sorification has begun.
They become evil monster lovers.
The Sorification has begun. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens as a result. I hope he turns into like a blue demon thing.
A blue Oni.
And she goes back to being red or something. I don't know.
Yeah, why is she like normal skin colored as well?
Science.
Spray paint.
Magic. Anime.
Science and spray paint.
Dr. Franxx. Or E, all of the above. It doesn't matter. She's that way so that they can sell like figurines and stuff.
Body pillows and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, who cares? Next. So we'll watch episode 14 next time along with spring premieres, see if Darling the Franxx can hang with the big boys.
Well, after basically because of a flashback, nothing happened in that episode.
Yeah, but
so
that's not really true though.
Essentially, it's episode 12, episode 0.5, and then episode 14.
Okay. Next.
Moving on to the season finale of Hakata Tonkotsu no Ramens.
There's no.
Oh,
No.
Shit. No.
That was pretty good though. You get an A for effort.
You get a bronze cup full of Brunswick stew. Little more effort, and you could have had a gold trophy full of steakums.
Yeah, it's a strong bad reference. It's fitting given what's on your shirt. I would rather have watched a bunch of Strong Bad emails than this show. I'll say that right off the bat.
Well, Strong Bad emails are timeless, man. Like, nothing can hold a candle to that.
Yeah, and this show, perhaps the opposite of being timeless, is just making you consider how much time. Yeah, it feels like, I don't know. I'm not a fan.
I think it's fun.
Yeah. Okay. So I see that you wrote. We've got our notes out like we usually do. That it was fun. So like what did you enjoy most about it? What made it most fun for you? We can kind of like, look back at the show as a whole, wrap it up.
Well, music is a huge part of any show for me, just because I like music, and just that sort of like jazz fusion music, kind of just like
I wouldn't say this is jazz fusion.
no,
Jazz fusion is like it's like weird. It's like the Weather Report, groups like that from the 70s.
okay, it's just jazz then.
Yeah, I guess
It's got a jazzy music. It's got a cool set. It's got an interesting setting. Just a city where the norm is people die all the time.
But I think that's the main problem with the show is that there's just violence and death everywhere, and it's not.
It's for no reason. Essentially, is what you're gonna say.
No, it's not that it's for no reason. I don't know what the reason is to watch the show when the stakes are so low in every scene, because that there's going to be a whole bunch of people getting shot up, and as in this episode, wacky random violence ensues, but it's always like the bad guys get beat up sometimes, they get hurt, but they're never going to die. Like there's
I mean, the good guys. The bad guys die a lot.
Yeah, the bad guys die all the time. The good guys never, they get hurt, but they never die.
I think the show just doesn't take itself too seriously as well.
Yeah, but that's another problem that I have with it, is that the characters aren't even taken seriously. I really thought the characters were kind of fun and like charming at the very start, but then they just kept being vehicles for these goofy scenes where they're like on computers, like, oh, I'm hacking, and now I'm gonna hack the locations of these bad guys. Okay, now you guys over there who are the killer guys, you go to where the bad guys are, you chop them up into a million pieces.
You kill them
We'll
good.
see you next week.
Next week on Murder City.
Yeah, when we hit the repeat button on whatever we just did. Let me give you an example of some of the comical violence, like the violence that kind of makes me laugh and not in a good way.
Like
in this show.
Gigi.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I actually thought it was kind of funny how the old
The old man is like a 40s gangster hitman. Yeah.
That was comical violence for sure. And I'm not sure why I'm laughing about it now, because I was kind of groaning when it happened in the show. But what I'm talking about is, it's the scene after Banba and Lin have been kidnapped and they're put in that cell. And Fei Lan is like still obsessed with the idea of two people having to kill each other, doing the deathmatch thing. He did that in the last episode with like two goons. Well, he forced them to kill each other. So he's still on about that. I didn't want to see that concept repeated.
I was about that's true. They retread old ground, but I hate to have to explain something away for a show, but that would have been obviously he's had a very traumatic life.
Yeah.
But that would have been like a huge point for him. He's been raised this whole time with his best friend. He's thrown into a cage and he's forced to betray his friend, air quotes, and then gets half killed himself.
The trauma came before that, because remember, he killed his old partner in the training facility. He reveals that to Lin.
I don't remember that.
That happens.
Oh.
He's like rubbing it in Lin's face. Didn't I tell you the only person you can trust is yourself? I've had to do this once before. I killed my old partner. Now I'm going to kill you. I have red hair.
Maybe he's just a sadistic fuck who likes to watch people kill each other.
Well, that's true. I mean, he was made to be that way. I'm sure he wasn't when he was a little baby.
Just like there was the the boxer who just filmed himself beating the crap out of his victims.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're just twisted individuals.
You could make an interesting story about like a character who's that messed up and use him as an effective villain, but that guy was a throwaway.
Because you really liked Fei Lan. The episode before.
That's the thing. Yeah, I was interested in his motivation. But in this episode, they repeat him asking Lin, let's partner up. Like in the last 5 minutes when Lin kills him. Because the climax comes at the very, very end. And then as a result, it's kind of anticlimactic when they just trade a few
I was about to say that was like
and
10 seconds. Yeah. And then he spits a piece of candy in his face and then shoots him.
Yeah. But
That was a little underwhelming.
There was just a bunch of repetition going on. He repeats the question, "Oh, let's team up, let's partner up." He repeats the idea of, "Oh, I'm just gonna." At the very beginning of the episode, he's like, "I'm gonna kill all your buddies and your pals, and so that you won't have a good time here anymore." And he also repeats the death match thing when he kidnaps Lin and Banba. So they didn't do any, like, his character's vision of how to best torment Lin was not.
It was very shallow.
No, I don't think it's shallow as an idea, but
narrow?
the show didn't do anything further with it in this episode.
What I mean by shallow is that, like, his character's idea of what that revenge of I'll burn your world, I'll burn your city.
No, I don't think that's not shallow.
Was shallow, or no, not the concept itself, but how he executed it.
Well, how the show did it.
Right.
The fact that they didn't push it any further in the finale when things should be pushed to their extreme. Oh yeah, I'm remembering now what I was going to talk about with the comical violence. Do you remember Fei Lan had the crossbow, and he was going to shoot it at Banba?
The bat, and it flies into some other dude and kills him.
Yes, Banba holds up the bat and
bunts.
Yeah, and bunts the arrow back into the heart of one of the Fei Lan's flunkies. But do you remember the sound effect when the arrow hit the bat?
Yeah, it sounded like a baseball hit, or sounding like a bat hitting a baseball.
No, it did not.
It didn't.
It sounded like gong. It sounded like the sound effects from Berserk, like the new CG adaptation of Berserk,
or from like Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, it sounded like a frying pan kind of noise, like
Bang.
Frying pan hits frying pan into 10 other frying pans. That's the noise that it made. It's completely inappropriate, and I mean, it was goofy.
So
like I thought the show was goofy.
You prefer your violence serious as opposed to comical.
Yeah, in general, I would say that violence should be used by a show to make you fear for the characters, or to make you like,
or fear for their enemies. In the case of One Punch Man.
Yeah, I guess in that particular case, sure. Yeah. But there should be like something evocative about violence. It shouldn't just be, oh, I'm on my way to work. I'm just going to work, and I'm going to pull this gun out of my pocket and shoot 5 people, and I'm going to keep walking. That's
violence for the sake of violence.
Yeah, I guess. That's a pretty good way to put it. The violence in this show, no, never. Sometimes it made me laugh, but never did it make me feel.
I mean, you know the heroes are gonna come out of the top. I think you do in 90% of anime. Know that the heroes are gonna come out on top.
Yeah, but
I think 90 might be a low estimate, actually.
Yeah, it probably is. It's probably more like 97 or 98. But the show should at least make you worry, or make you interested in how the conflict will unfold.
Like Banba gets shot and he's like, "Well, I don't feel any pain anymore. They patched my wounds."
Yeah, that's just another kind of example of how casual all the fighting is in this show. Like, it doesn't really have any consequences.
Submarine Ninja comes in. "I'm going to go kill Fei Lan." "No, you shouldn't. Lin's going to do that." "Are you going to stop me?" "Yes, but you're bleeding. We'll settle this another time."
Well, I think they just did that so that they could get him in there. It was like, let's get all the characters that we've met and grown to love over the last 11 episodes. Let's throw them all in episode 12.
But it's like the Seinfeld finale.
Yeah. A lot of shows fall victim to that kind of thing. I mean, Seinfeld's finale, I don't think was even that good.
No, it wasn't.
Just retreading of old ground, kind of like this one. This was the Seinfeld finale of anime.
That implies the show was successful, though, for 9 seasons.
I don't know how successful this show was. I doubt that it had any major following, either in Japan or America. The biggest show of the season in Japan, I think, was Yuru Camp, which we didn't even watch. And in America, it's probably Darling in the Franxx.
Yeah.
This one, it's not a bad thing to watch stuff that's under the radar. In fact, sometimes that's where you can find the best stuff. But to me, this was not my favorite.
All right. Cool. I think we summed that up pretty well.
I guess, yeah.
So
I was
then-
mostly complaining.
Yeah,
so
I know you
why
were.
don't you pick what we should talk about next?
Next, how about we do another show that is completely finished, Kokkoku.
Oh, this is going to be more of me complaining.
Can I join you?
Of course. You get the first complaint.
I'm going to skip all the way to the last 3 seconds of the entire thing. The end card. It's
Okay.
Juri and Majima about to make out or something, and Makoto's like, "What? Why was that the end card?"
I don't know. Think about the ED, like the show's normal ending theme, and how it was there were a bunch of seductive poses in there.
Yeah.
It was just for that reason.
But the show's already over. You don't need to do that anymore. You're not trying to sell a product at this point. You're done.
Yes, you are. You got to sell the Blu-rays, man. There's no real artistic reason for it.
Episode 13 from the OVA, Juri's Bath Day.
Dude, I don't think that this show is going to sell a lot of discs, man. And that's
No.
fine because it was a in the end it turned out to be a piece of shit. Even though I thought that it started off so well.
What did you think of episode 12?
So that's this one.
What did you think of the ending?
I don't know. It's interesting. I was kind of back on board for the first, let's say, 30% of this episode when it was Juri and her grandpa in stasis with nobody else except for one other woman who we don't meet till the last 5 minutes.
Who wasn't actually there until the very end.
No, I think she was always there.
Not the way she explained it.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to that, though.
Yeah. It was just, anyway, but what we saw at the start of episode 12 was Juri, her grandpa, and they're taking their care. It's just the two of them, and they're taking care of Sagawa, little baby Sagawa,
Right.
who got birthed out of that weird cocoon thing.
Who's now just a baby. It's not Sagawa anymore. It's just...
Well, he's still
a
the
child.
same person. It explained in the last episode that it was his DNA that the cocoon thing used in order. It was in the process of he was in the process of reforming inside that cocoon, and because Majima expelled the specter or whatever, it had to abort the birth, and so all that came out was a little baby because he wasn't finished
Growing.
developing. So
Yep.
it is him, but he's not the same villainous, murderous
Right.
guy.
He's just... It's his body, but not his mind.
Yeah, but that's something that people were worried about. Maybe at the start of this episode.
Yeah, it was the start of this episode.
Yeah, people are like, shouldn't we just? I know he's a baby, but shouldn't we just kill him?
It was the scientist who was thinking that, and then
And probably the other guy too, right?
Juri and
The punk.
Majima explained it, and he's just like, "Oh, okay,
That's right. I totally forgot that they were.
sense to me."
I forgot that they were at the start of this episode because she sends them home, or out of stasis really fast.
Yeah, pronto.
So I was interested in just the idea that it was the two of them alone and this little baby, and they had to take care of him. But then after she she sends her grandpa home against his will, and she slowly starts to go mad. That was where it kind of lost me.
Well, she went mad after she sent the child home. She was fine until then. She was just taking care of the kid
Right. I guess you're right about that.
because she lost her purpose for being in stasis.
Yeah, she literally loses her purpose for being, which is how people turn into heralds. It seems like that's the final verdict because I don't know if it adapted the manga perfectly, but show's over. So losing your reason for living in stasis is how you become a herald, I suppose.
You just become a vessel.
Yeah. Did you notice that those weird tentacle things started to come out of her? Because she had lost her will to live. She kind of realized
Right, the
there's nothing for
specter
me to
is
do.
slowly leaving.
Right. And then that blue dragon thing shows up.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that?
That's the creator.
That's the woman?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't get that at all.
that's her stasis manifestation.
That completely went over my head.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Okay. So the dragon thing shows up, and it somehow interrupts her transformation into being a herald, and she falls back to the ground or something.
Right.
But then it immediately starts to happen to her again.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a weird false start. But anyway, then she rises up, and then so she kind of starts to become a handler, a herald,
Right.
And as a result, she has the perspective that they do, I think.
Where you see just like you have supervision.
Right. And that's when she sees the woman.
She sees like this like light and it's just like, I wanted to go to there.
She doesn't just see a light, does she? I thought she sees like a little network of nerves and stuff. Like
No,
she sees
it's like
the
a
woman.
cylinder with a ball inside of it.
Okay.
And then she just like reaches out and tries to touch it and it summons her. She wasn't actually there, but she can be summoned into stasis, apparently, from what she said. You summoned me.
I thought you said that she was that dragon, that little blue dragon.
Right. She's always in and out of stasis at the same time.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me as a concept, but I didn't. I think I was probably laughing too hard to process any of their conversation near the end. Because just the multitude of transformations that Sagawa goes through and his entire motivation just making no sense kind of made me lose interest in the whole idea of stasis as some big mystery with the GLS attached to it and a big religion and a big cult.
Right.
And the guy who'd been in there for 500 years and left behind those records. Since Sagawa kind of in the show represented that idea, that concept, and I hated him, as a result, I kind of blew all that off in my head.
Okay.
So the woman talking about whatever,
You're just like, meh.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was pretty convenient for Juri.
Yeah, absolutely. The show does seem to make up rules about stasis in order to explain what had been written before it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can make that criticism of a lot of, like, think about Death Note. You could say the same about that show. But Death Note actually looks good, sounds good, is tense, and is fun. This show's none of those.
It came out a long time ago.
Yeah. Base mid-2000s Madhouse. If only we could go back.
Do they not do anything good anymore?
They did Sora, which we're going to talk about in a bit.
Right.
Okay, so you explain to me what it is the blonde woman said, because I know that she was the actual founder,
right,
and that she was in love with the 500-year guy,
right, and that was her husband. Her husband essentially studied her, and you see
the picture of him with the dragon.
That's her.
Okay, that kind of makes sense, I guess.
And so she studied her. He created the stones and the religion and all that stuff.
Yeah,
the woman,
but he died.
Yeah, he died, and she just kind of like
went
roams time and space, essentially.
Right. So
she's a Time Lord.
Juri seeing the blue dragon, the woman whose name I forget, if it was even provided for us. That was just a result of that woman being everywhere in stasis.
Essentially, she just exists in stasis.
Okay.
And can be like summoned by people.
Okay, sure. That's great.
Yep.
So then she sends Juri home.
Yep. She's just like, poof.
Right.
You're back. The world starts to move again.
And here's a question for you. How did her grandpa know that she was going to show up that night? Remember when she comes back and her grandpa's waiting for her? He's like sitting on the landing right above where you put your shoes in a Japanese house.
Right.
He's up on the floor there. Mm-hmm. And Juri walks in and he's like, oh, she's here. And everyone walks in and says, oh, yeah, he told us you were going to show up tonight. How did...
it's possible that the creator showed up, like just appeared to him and was like, hey, by the way, your daughter's coming home tonight. Bye. And just pieced out.
Okay, sure. I mean, if the show is already creating this contrivance that Juri is about to turn into a herald, but at the last second she notices this presence and it happens to be the all-knowing, all-powerful god of stasis who can send her home to her family. If we're already going that far, then what's a little bit more coincidence on top of that?
Yeah, there's basically no other way he could have known.
Yeah.
Besides intuition.
Unless, like, they all got home that night. Because they were all frozen in time. So maybe...
They were all frozen in the same day.
Well, yeah, in the same, like, millisecond or nanosecond of time.
Right.
So maybe...
So if she was going to come home, it would be the same day.
Well, yeah, but that kind of makes sense to me. Like, they're all frozen in time, so when they escape, time is resuming. But the problem is, if that's the case, then why don't they show up exactly where they were when time was first frozen?
Essentially, they're moving at like an obnoxious speed. It's like the Flash when he's able to move.
I remember that in the show, like they're just moving really fast, or that's how people would perceive them if they were able to.
Yeah.
But
and the specters essentially just stop your body from being destroyed by that. They regulate the world around you so that you're not like destroyed by wind resistance or water tension.
So then it's not just that time is unfrozen, and everyone would show up on the same day and the same time as a result. When you leave stasis, it's not just you go into like the next frame of time, the next split second. Time just resumes, but you're
in
somewhere
a different
else.
spot.
Yeah, so then it doesn't make sense that he would know exactly when she was going to get back. He wouldn't know it was that day.
He could, if he's known about stasis his whole life and he knows enough about it based on what he learned from like his dad and his grandfather.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter.
He would assume it's like if Jury shows up at all, it'll be today.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so the main thing that I took away from this is that blue dragon was the woman. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
And then we saw just like a couple years later,
them growing up.
Saga was still a child and
little baby Red Eyes Black Dragon.
Red Eyes Black Chick.
Dude, this show's production fell off a cliff in the second half. It just started looking so bad week after week.
I think it's is it I hate to use this term, but is it a meme to find like off-model shots?
Yeah, it's called quality.
Quality.
Yeah,
the show is full of it.
In all caps. If something's, stuff that's off model, you call it quality. And I'm worried because this show was done by Geno Studio.
It was their first show, wasn't it?
Yes. Though not their first production. They did Genocidal Organ last year. It's a movie. But they're the ones who are doing Golden Kamuy, or however you say it. I haven't read the manga of that series. And I'm scared. Golden, you know which one I'm talking about, right?
No.
It's the one that's set in the wilderness.
No.
Okay, we watched the PV, and
Oh.
we're going to be watching it again soon.
Okay.
It's like it's supposed to be, it's based on an award-winning manga. People are over the moon about it. And it's getting an adaptation, but it's Geno Studio that's doing it. So I'm worried it's going to, look decent for the first half and just look like total trash for the second.
Maybe it'll have a larger budget because it was an adaptation of something more beloved.
It's not just money, though. It has
Money
to do
buys
with
talent, though.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it works precisely that way in the Japanese.
Well, I mean, money can
animation
buy
industry.
better artists. Like literally,
I don't know, man.
I would assume because the bigger studios have more money and their stuff looks better. So, I mean, that's not like a straight. It's not a correlation.
Yeah, I don't think it's just cash that factors into it.
I'd say you also need someone who can budget properly for the whole series, and you need like an episode director and someone who's controlling the quality of everything. And
Yeah, so it matters more who's doing all that than who's getting paid what and which studio is doing it. What matters is the people who are working on the show. And I don't know if Geno just uses the same, if they mostly keep it in house or if they bring freelancers in from all over the place.
who knows?
I don't look that closely into that sort of stuff. Although there are people who do. There are people who like have YouTube channels and blogs and websites that are dedicated to that. I'm just worried about Golden Kamuy.
Okay,
But
well,
we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. Thoughts on Kokkoku? If you had to sum it up in 5 words or less. It's off the top of your head really fast. Doesn't have to be anything clever.
Don't enter stasis.
Okay. I'm going to say good at first, hot garbage. Next show.
Next show on the list is Sora Yori.
Finally. Salvation is here.
Madhouse.
Yeah, mid 2010s Madhouse or late 2010s.
Well, yeah, really late 2010s.
I like these episodes.
Yeah. Because I know you weren't so hot on the last few.
Yeah, and there was some of the stuff that I didn't like about the last two in these. Stuff about the nature of friendship. What is friendship? Are we friends?
You guys
Are
must
we
be
friends?
you guys must be good friends to understand that she needs space.
Yeah, that
We're good friends.
yeah. Of course it would be Yuzu who says that, because she's like the one trying to draw up friendship contracts and the one who is like really lonely and doesn't have any friends because of her career. But that that was a very minor annoyance for me. That was a small qualm that I had with these episodes, because it was Shirase was at the center of them. It was about her
and her mom.
Yeah. And I appreciated how the path that the show took. It was good.
Yeah, I really like the scene where her friends are just like digging around
At the end of episode 12.
episode 12, and she finds the laptop and all the emails.
Yeah, hold up though. Why is the laptop working?
No, she plugged it in.
I know, but it's been in Antarctica with was the white stuff on it? Was that dust or was that frost?
Frost, probably.
Okay, why is the laptop working? You see what I'm saying?
I don't know. Maybe it was a Mac.
Maybe it was the power of friendship that got it to turn on.
I mean, electronics can survive cold conditions like that.
I guess.
If it's warmed back up and then turned on, I mean, it could be fine.
I guess.
Well, you got to assume it's like an expedition grade laptop, like the military takes those tough books that can be dropped off of like 50-story buildings and turn on. Those things are designed to function in any environment.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll go with that. Even though on this expedition, they were afraid that they weren't even going to be able to leave port this time around.
Yep.
So the first journey that they took can't have been like that much, like it can't have been substantially more high tech. I doubt they were using those tough books, whatever you're talking about. But sure, the laptop turned on.
Yeah.
And that's the moment when she sees all the messages that she sent to her.
It connects and it gets all the emails.
Yeah.
There's
She sees all the messages she sent to her mom.
1,200 emails or something.
Yeah. That was and she was that's interesting. It's an interesting scene, because your reaction to that would probably be like, my reaction, I think, would be sadness. Like, I'm seeing all these emails and my mom never got them before passing away.
Right.
And she was definitely sad. I mean, she starts breaking down and sobbing. And that's the end of the episode.
Slow, sad guitar music. She's crying. Her friends are outside the room crying as well.
Yeah.
Their cycles have all synced up.
But it's, oh God. But it's interesting the way that entire scene progressed, like in terms of layout and especially audio. You hear Shirase start to cry because of what she's seeing on her screen, and then it cuts outside to her friends who are also all crying, but you can't hear them.
Yeah,
it's only Shirase that you hear. So what your brain registers, I think, as a result of that decision on the show's part, is they're all crying for her.
Yeah,
which is an effective choice to make. That like. All the show's always about like, oh, are we friends? What is friendship all about? What does it even mean? But
show, don't tell.
Yeah, in this instance, the fact that they are all so upset for her, that's proof that they're friends. Like we didn't need everything that went on in episodes 10 and 11 about
you didn't need the massive expository dialogue
about what friends are and whether they need contracts or not. Like we
different
know
kinds of friends, and yeah,
we know what friends are. We know that the girls are friends, and it's demonstrated better in this episode, in these episodes, than it was in the last two, which were explicitly about that. But anyway,
then we got episode 13, which was the little bow on the end of it.
Right. Yeah, and that's I really like that about these episodes, is that the climactic moment, like the biggest emotional moment in the show, is in the second to last episode. And the last one is dedicated to showing how the characters have changed. That is such an underrated technique. Like, think about Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens, which has the climactic fight in the 5 minutes away from the end. And then we just get a nice little scene where all the characters are together on one street. in the last
on
5
a
minutes.
pier next to a ramen stand, and then they play baseball.
Yeah. But I mean, all that's fine. It's kind of goofy given what we know about the show and its general tone, but all that's great. But it all happens in such a short amount of time after there's been like a terrible series of murders in some abandoned building where people are
You guys know I have to
deflecting.
clean this up, right?
I don't know, man. That show was, I don't know. We're not talking about that anymore. In this one, all of episode 13 is just the show taking a big breath and letting you realize how everyone's changed.
Yeah.
Like you get to see the guy approaching Yuzu and he's like asking her to sign the CD. And
He
and
says that he's looking forward to her drama.
yeah. And so she realizes people are looking forward to it. Like it isn't the work that I do it's meaningful.
It's meaningful to people.
Yeah. And they all get to reflect back on the time they spent together in Antarctica, which was the time they spent as friends, but it doesn't
beat you over the head with it.
Yeah, not in episode 13 at least, which is good. You feel that they're friends just watching them. And all the characters feel good about the time that they've spent together, and they feel good about their relationship with each other. Like they reach that
We
point.
have to go back.
Yeah, and they all want to go back. That's interesting. I don't know that they will. What was up with Megumi being in Antarctica? Was she really there?
I don't know.
That was weird.
I was. If she was, I'm like, why? How? More importantly, how?
Yeah. Maybe she was just using what's that app on a Mac, photo booth, where you can, kind of green screen yourself, like without a green screen.
It's not like they had great cell reception down there. She wouldn't have gotten a response that fast.
Oh, well, didn't they have cell reception?
They do, but I don't know.
Does the show ever say that it's like really bad or slow?
They said only next to the camp do you have any sort of
Well, wait a minute.
access to the
If
outside
that's
world.
true, then how come all the emails show up on Shirase's computer so fast?
Their emails is text. It's like tiny amounts of data.
I guess, yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so that's something I really liked about 13 was you could see how the characters have changed, how they're different from when we first met them. And in the spirit of change, Shirase cuts her hair. Have you seen, I'm sure you've seen stuff, movies or TV shows where somebody cuts their hair and is meant to symbolize, like personal growth or change, something like that.
Or conversion to lesbianism.
What?
Lesbians have short hair usually.
Okay. Do you think Shirase is a lesbian?
No, I'm just I don't know.
Okay.
This came out of left field.
Do you know what I'm talking about though? Have you seen that sort of thing happen before? I mean, I know we've both seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, like Zuko cutting his hair.
Right.
He cuts off the top knot thing that he has, that little ponytail thing.
Right.
Whatever that's called.
Because it was like a symbol of his royalty or something.
Yeah, so he cuts it off because first of all, he can't have it. It's like too
Him
distinctive.
and his grandfather cut
That's
it
right.
off.
Yeah. So that's it is supposed to represent, I think it might come from like Asian culture. The
Maybe.
idea that cutting your hair is like symbolic of change.
The most, notable story I can remember of cutting hair being important was Samson
Oh yeah,
from the Bible.
I guess.
'Cause he lost all of his power.
Yeah. Well, if your hair represents power, then Shirase's power level got cut in half, or maybe even lower. She got it cut real short.
That makes DBZ pretty biblical then, because everyone's hair just gets bigger and bigger as they get more powerful.
It sure does.
Call me Super Kame Guru.
Oh yeah, why did Shirase leave the money? She left 1 million yen in Antarctica.
It's not like $10,000
Yes, that's right.
roughly. I don't know.
It was also supposed to be representative of something. Like the money was all for the trip, and she got what she wanted out of the trip, so she left the money there. But it's still like, it's so dumb. Just take the money.
Like,
you worked hard for it, because there's the scene where she puts all the bills down individually.
And she's like saying what they were all from.
Yeah, what odd job she worked in order to make all that money. And and she just left them. But that doesn't matter. I was happy with the way the show wrapped up.
Yeah, I was just perplexed by the very end of it. The
Megumi.
yeah, that just threw me for a loop.
Yeah, it did. Throwing you for a loop. I had the exact same reaction. But it wasn't just like me being perplexed about how she got there. It was,
Why would her character go there?
yeah, why would her character go there? And also, why is the show, I mean, Mari was established as the main character.
Yes.
But I kind of feel as though Shirase was the true main, like she was the true main character.
Because she was the real motivation for going.
Yeah, she was the one who wanted to go to Antarctica, and Himari kind of like latched on to that.
Yeah.
And I did like bringing it back to Mari in the end. It's supposed to provide some sort of symmetry, I guess. But I really wish it had stayed with Shirase, because the most powerful moment for me in either of these two episodes was actually the moment where she comes home and she joins her grandma in front of the shrine in their house.
Yeah.
To her mom, and she's got the short hair. She puts that little cup with the ball of ice in it on the shrine. I actually started crying when she did that, and then there was a shot of her like smiling at the photo of her mom, and she's got the short hair.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how you know that trope works, because like I think the fact that she looked so different, it represents that she's like come a long way, I guess. And it made me like really emotional. So that's why I think the main reason why I was so happy with these episodes is because of what they did with Shirase's character.
They didn't really do anything with Hinata. She kind of just shows up at a shrine and is like, "Yep, life." Right?
What was the little deal with her character
I don't know.
at the end there? They were all showing what they were doing once they got home. She was talking to some guy. Was it the convenience store?
No, she was at a shrine.
What?
Like there was like a lion, and it had like the fancy Japanese like wood stuff.
But do you remember her talking to some guy?
No,
Okay. I mean, the show's over. There's no real reason to go back to it.
I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that's.
But it sounds like we were both confused about how her character ended up. You know, how she really changed. I think she got the least attention in that regard. Yeah. But I liked all four of the main characters. I mean, I liked them well enough. It was Shirase blew everybody else away for me at the end.
Yeah, it's 'cause she had the most on the line out of everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, she had the most like drive to go do something and the most to gain from the trip.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Mari really wanted to change her life by going someplace, and she did, but she didn't. She was like running away from Japan, I guess. Japan representing maybe like the status quo, just her life being the same, going to high school, and
and just being the same as everyone else. And
yeah, so I'm sure that she felt as though it was like a survive or die kind of thing, where she had to get away from where she was, or else she wasn't going to be able to go on.
right.
You know, she wasn't going to keel over dead, but she felt as though she was kind of undergoing a spiritual death, I suppose. That's putting things a little too grandly, but like even though Mari had all that stuff going on with her story, still Shirase is like dealing with the loss of her mother. That's what her trip to Antarctica was about, and it just everybody else's shit like paled in comparison.
Right.
And I also thought the show, you know, it looked pretty nice all the way through.
Yeah.
Not the best character animation, but it was good in spots, and it was mostly like the Antarctic landscapes, you know, like the Aurora Borealis, or maybe that's not the correct term for that stuff at the South Pole, but
Yeah, the aurora itself.
yeah, all that, and then the little shot where they see that optical illusion of the sun.
Yeah.
Like
The pillar of sun.
Yeah.
The sun pillar.
yeah,
Sun pillar.
yeah, the sun peeler, and then they, you know, all the like the icebergs and
The landscapes.
Yeah, they were all really good, and the use of CG in this show is very unintrusive.
It's used for the ship and a snowcat. That's it.
And I think the helicopter when
Yeah,
they're
the
leaving in the
helicopter
last
CG
scene,
as
but
well.
it was really good. I was really impressed by it. Holy cow.
Well, Madhouse also does Overlord, and there's a crap load of CG in that, but it
Yeah,
does
but
not look good.
No. Yeah, but I mean, as we were talking about before, the studio isn't everything. It's not always going to be the exact same group of people working on stuff.
Right.
So I like this show quite a bit.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't think it's anything I'm going to remember in a year. I mean, I will remember that the show with this name, Sora, Yori, Mo, whatever, is about Antarctica and about 4 girls who went there.
Tooi Basho.
But I won't remember it as one of the best of the year or anything. At least I hope not, because we still got a lot of years to go.
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next? Violet Evergarden.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. You didn't like these episodes?
Not that much, no. How'd you feel about them?
It's kind of the same that we've discussed before with this show whenever it focuses on the war aspect, is that we have no context for the war, so there's not really a stake in it.
I'm so glad you said that, because that was pretty much everything I had to say about these episodes. I don't know why the war is being fought. I don't understand the political reasoning behind it, the economic reasoning.
I think at one point they said the war was like fought over like land and resources, and that is as far as they ever bothered to explain it.
Isn't every war fought over land or resources?
Yes.
Almost. Well, I mean, some wars are, somebody died, or
Helen of Troy.
somebody stole somebody's woman, or
the Crusades.
Yeah, or there's a religious reason. But I mean, the Crusades were really about land.
Well, yeah.
But the reasoning that they provide for why the war is going on is really flimsy.
It's flimsy and almost not even there.
Yeah. So then Violet being an action hero in episode 12 and fighting people on top of a train and stuff. I mean, it's cool and all, and I like Violet. I'm glad that she's okay.
Glad she can deflect bullets with her hands now.
Yeah. Dude, her arms got ripped to shreds in these last couple of episodes.
Yeah, she lost her left arm, and then she pulled her right arm off by pulling a bomb off a bridge.
That's right. Yeah, it just feels completely inappropriate for her to be on the bridge there trying to pull that bomb off and save the day. Like, that's not what this show is about. And I understand that wherever the show chooses to go is what the show is about. But so much of it was about, people just trying to come to terms with some loss that they had experienced in their lives, and Violet was helping them do it. And at the same time, she was learning how to
herself.
process her own sense of loss and what it means to love. In these episodes, she learned how to pull a bomb off of a bridge and save everyone.
And also the other guy from the post service just like flying, kicking the other bomb off. What was that?
With his high heels. Did you finally notice that he wore his heels?
I did. I saw the heels.
I mean, they came in pretty clutch in this episode.
Yeah, it seems.
What a show.
Yep. And then we have the anti-peace soldiers.
Yeah, that was what this was the leftover conflict from the big war that we never see.
Right. Well, I mean, we saw 2 episodes of it. We saw the final battle.
Oh, yeah. Those were some of the worst episodes of the show, though. As were these, I feel. Like 12 especially. I just... Like, one of the main problems I had with them was they bring in the brother character.
Gilbert's brother, yeah.
Yeah. So it was him who, at the end of episode 5 or 6 or something, we see...
It was just like you, and then it's never followed up on.
Yeah, until now, I guess. We don't get a continuation of that weird
confrontation at the end of the episode.
Yeah. But he does factor back into the story here. And he's mad at her because he sees her as having stolen...
He sees her as like it's her fault that his brother's dead.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And
but the thing is, Violet's like sense of guilt about her participation in the war and her inability to save Gilbert, that was wrapped up at the end of episode 9 or something. Remember when we talked about that episode, you were like, this kind of felt like a conclusion.
It's episode 10. Yeah, it was like 10, it kind of felt like
No, it wasn't 10. 10 was the one with the little girl.
Oh, okay, then it was 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt like I was like, this kind of feels like it's done.
Yeah. So
like Violet's journey is over at this point.
Yeah, and specifically her processing of her part in the war and her her inability to save Gilbert. That was all. She kind of came to terms with all that at the end of episode 9. So now
And they just dredged it up for the last 2 episodes.
yeah, well they bring in a new-ish character who has like a similar issue. And as a result, he just kind of comes across as like, I don't know, inserted rather badly into Violet Evergarden, the show.
We need you to keep this train safe. Cool. Violet happens to fly overhead. Hey, here's a bunch of intel you didn't have that your military officers couldn't get for you. Don't be on this train.
Yeah.
Thank God you're on this train. Go save the day.
He's well, he doesn't even want her to save the day. He just wants her out of his sight, which I understand. I mean, it makes sense that he would feel that way. But
I mean, once like they decouple the cars and stuff, she finds him, and he tells her, he's like, "I'm gonna go to the front. You take care of the VIPs."
Yeah. I do recall that. And then they have that big fight on top of the train. And Violet is she's so dead set on not killing anybody that one guy starts to slide off the train. She like stops fighting everyone and tries to pick him up, like haul his body back on top so he won't die. And she gets completely wrecked as a result. People start like slashing at her and kicking her and stuff.
Yep.
But everything works out in the end.
Gilbert's brother saves the day.
That's right.
And then she saves the day.
And then Benedict saves the day.
And then she saves the other day, which was the other bomb. And then there's peace. And then
that's the end.
Then the letters. And that's not actually the end. We got an Inception ending.
How do we get an Inception ending?
That you don't know if this is real.
That's not an Inception ending. Inception ending is you don't know if this is like reality.
I just mean like the concept of you're not sure like what the ending was. Is it like what you expect the ending to be, or is it something different?
You're just talking about like whether it's Gilbert.
Yeah, is it Gilbert or not?
Yeah.
That the letter flew 1,000 miles into a field of flowers.
Yeah. What a nice little visual moment. That is undercut by everything else about the show.
And Erica likes Benedict, and Claudia wants to be a dad, and probably with Catalia. That's right.
Yeah, all the other characters were like so minor that they didn't even really matter that much. A couple of them got their own little episodes. Erica with the glasses, who we were just talking about, she kind of had like half of an episode dedicated to her.
Yeah.
Where she saw the doll in the window. Was that her?
Yeah.
And we get the story about like
the first auto-memory doll.
No, the typewriter, how the typewriter was invented.
Oh.
It was the guy whose wife goes blind.
And the phrase auto-memory doll comes from that story.
Yeah, I guess. And then we got an episode about, what's her name? Lily. Is it Lily? The gypsy-ish girl?
It's Lily.
Yeah. We got an episode about her. I like that episode. But like Catalia, we never really learned what her deal was. Claudia, Hodgins, whatever you want to call him. A dancer, she said.
Well,
yeah.
Take that as you will.
Well, I mean, this show is like mid-1900s England-ish setting. So a dancer probably doesn't mean stripper in this context.
Prostitution is the oldest profession in the world.
But she didn't say she was a pro. She said she was a dancer.
Which is a nice way of saying... Okay, anyways, that's semantics at this point.
No, it's not semantics. You're literally wrong. She said she was a dancer. So that's probably what she was.
Well, I know someone who's referred to herself as a dancer who was a stripper, who was also a prostitute.
But like I said, this show is set in a mid-1900s European setting.
All right. Okay. So she was a dancer and a bunch of soldiers died, and she feels bad about that. And happily ever after.
Don't we all? I understand what you're saying. Not about the stripper thing, because that makes no sense, and you're wrong. But I understand.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Okay. I understand what you mean about like it all feeling kind of trivial. All the characters showing up at the end. Like, who cares about them? It's about Violet. So it's nice that they show up, but they were never worked into the story too well.
We also had this scene with Gilbert's mom.
What?
Gilbert's mom?
Yeah. Who cares about her?
Well, that was part of Violet's story. The mom being like, we all It's like, we know that he died. He's like, but he lives on
In our hearts. Yeah.
He wanted me to meet you. And hi, now get out of my house.
Yeah,
I don't need your orders anymore.
She was just kind of thrown in there at the end, which was fine. But I think the big question, you can kind of push the mom to one side and push all the other memory dolls and people who work at that company to one side because they don't factor, into the story in a big way. But here's the question: was Hodgins there on the other side of that door at the end, or not Hodgins?
Gilbert.
Gilbert, was he there?
The easiest assumption is yes.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad they didn't show him. I'm glad they didn't commit to that. That's
She's
good.
Just kind of like, hey.
Yeah, like the way she slowly smiles it's too much of a perfect like Hollywood type moment for it not to be Gilbert. The obvious implication is that it's him, but it's not shown. So at least the show didn't go to that level of like horse shit.
Okay.
Because it would be stupid if he were still alive.
Yeah, I mean,
they found her body, but not his, even though they were in the same place when the rubble came down on top of him. Right. Wait, they didn't find his body, right?
No, they never did.
Oh, then it makes sense that he would be alive. Whoops. I changed my mind. Violet Evergarden is a masterpiece, 10 out of 10, anime of the year. KyoAni does it again. They found a way.
It'll be on English Netflix pretty soon, won't it?
I think it's up.
Really?
Yeah, but it's literally been available to watch online for ages on a week-by-week basis. But Netflix drones will probably enjoy it. I don't know if they like anime and shows where they're only half the episodes are good. And
isn't that everything on Netflix? Zing!
I don't know, dude. Arrested Development is on Netflix.
That's true. You know it's getting a 5th season?
They've been saying that forever.
Well, we'll see.
Yep. Violet Evergarden was okay. Some episodes good. Some episodes war. War episodes bad. Final review.
It's a show worth watching. Lots of cool emotional stories and some beautiful animation and the story of a robot learning to love.
Indeed. Indeed. Mob Psycho 100 is the last show we're going to cover in this episode of the podcast. Let's talk about it now.
An episode and a half is just a fight scene.
With who?
Well, it ends up being Reagan through Mob and the last 4 of Division 7 of Claw.
No, that's not an episode and a half. No way, because the first half of episode 12 is Reagan infiltrating the Claw base.
Right, Reagan bluffing his way through everything.
Yeah. And then the second half of episode 12 is, where are we now that Claw has been defeated? Like, what are all the characters up to and stuff?
Right. It's
probably an episode's worth of fighting, and it wasn't all fighting either. It was mostly like discussion. There were a lot of fight scenes, and they all looked neat, but there was a lot of Reagan talking to Mob specifically.
Yeah,
he talked a lot to those underlings who he tricked into letting him in. They thought he was the boss, but he talked to Mob a lot about don't use.
It's okay to run away. You don't have to use your powers against other people.
Yeah, don't hurt people with your abilities. And then him lecturing the Claw guys as well. Well, the way Ritsu puts it is he's like stripping them of their illusions. They're like I don't know, just
of their delusions.
Yeah, of their delusions, of the way that they like push responsibility for their problems onto society or other people.
When I was in 4th grade, I once forgot to tell my parents that it was sports day. So I was the only one who didn't have food.
Yeah.
But that was your fault. It doesn't change anything.
This is my second time watching the show, and I felt kind of the same way this time that I did the first time about these last few episodes, not just these 2, but like the second half of the show really is the show's kind of giving me, it's not necessarily mixed messages, but I'm not sure what the main takeaway is. I understand that Reagan's whole thing is, even if you have psychic powers, even if you're gifted in that way, it's the same as being like a good athlete or really smart or something. You're still just a human being. You're no better or worse than anyone else. I get that, but like all his lecturing of the Claw guys, and then him being like morally bankrupt himself, it's kind of strange. It makes him an interesting character, but I don't really know what to make of that.
Well, a lot of the times you say when you're talking about this show is that the depiction of all the characters is how one sees humans and humanity himself.
Right, one being the guy who
the creator.
wrote the story.
And I think this might be a bit of a stretch, but the way that Reagan is, essentially being holier than thou by, telling these people you're no better than them, by essentially like setting a moral standard and being morally bankrupt himself. I think he's talking a lot about how a lot of maybe world leaders or influential figures do the same thing.
World leaders, huh?
Somebody who's more powerful than you, who's like trying to teach you something, even though they're morally bankrupt themselves.
I would say that's a bit of...
Because in that moment, he's just like God to them because he's so powerful from Mob.
Right, yeah. Mob transfers his powers into Reagan, seemingly by accident.
His adoration for his master hits 1,000%.
That's right. Yeah, I would say that's a bit of a stretch. I don't think we're dealing with any world leaders or any...
I meant people who are more powerful than you, who have like positions over you.
Right.
Like your boss, or
they're no different or no better than you,
or your grandparents, or your parents, or just people in an influential position above you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that's Reagan's deal, is everybody's just the same. But I don't know what I'm supposed to take away. Is it just that? And if that's the case, why is he written as a super shady...
I can't tell you what exactly he was trying to say because I'm not him.
Yeah.
So you
can interpret the work.
And I did. And I told you what it was.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, why is he written, if he's delivering this message, and it's the message that the show really wants to convey, hypothetically, that you having a gift that someone else doesn't have, or you being in a higher position than they are socially or influentially, if you're still the same as everyone else, if you're no better or worse than anybody, if that's the message that the show wants us to take away, why is it necessary that Reagan be written as he is? I don't really understand that.
I don't know. I had my theory.
Yeah. I mean, he like saves the day. He busts into the headquarters and takes Mob's power and saves everybody. And it's weird. It's a big anticlimax because the 7th Division of Claw, they're totally wiped out. And the guy who you assumed was a trainee with the red hair, Sho.
Yeah.
He's
the son of the leader of Claw.
Yeah, apparently. So it ends like really, anticlimactically, but it doesn't end badly because you have the rest of episode 12 to wrap things up. You get to see all the characters. I mean, we're watching a whole bunch of shows wrap up right now. Mob Psycho isn't from this season, but its ending, based on our schedule, lines up with the ending of all the other shows, or a lot of them.
Right.
And you see that in a lot of these shows, like Violet Evergarden, we were just talking about it. At the end of Tonkotsu Ramens, there's all the characters in one place. Mob Psycho does the same thing, kind of. They're not all together, but you see all of them.
Yeah, you see Ritsu. Is that?
That's the brother.
Ritsu with the head of the student body.
Yeah, the class president. Who's like gone straight.
Yeah, who's like been scared straight or whatever.
Scared straight.
And then is basically like apologizes to
Onigawara.
Yeah.
Who has joined the Body Improvement Club.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like early in the show, Reagan was. Well, let's forget talking about Reagan because my feelings about him are like pretty conflicted. Him as a character, but early on in the show, it was pushing the idea that like you need to try to improve yourself. Some people just goof around. They just waste their potential, or they waste their life. But you should really. Mob decides to join the Body Improvement Club so he can improve himself.
So that he can impress girls.
Yeah, I mean that's there because he loves Tsubomi-chan, and he doesn't care about any of the other girls who have like vegetables for faces.
Right.
Literally. But I feel like the show doesn't carry that message all the way through. At the beginning, Mob is desperately trying to improve himself because he doesn't see he already doesn't see his psychic power as something that makes him better than anybody else because he's not like that.
Right.
Other characters do, like Ritsu being desperate for that psychic ability so that he can be on a level with his brother, and Yellow Hair, whose name I'm blanking on. Shoot.
I have him. He's yellow hair in my notes.
Yeah. Well, isn't it like Taka or something? I can't believe I can't remember his name.
Takafumi. I don't know.
But his he's obsessed with power. And then Mob destroys that way of thinking by just being more powerful than them, but at the same time not lording it over them, and just being, humble and reserved and himself, and not trying to be anybody else, and trying to improve himself in a completely unrelated way. But that theme is not carried through. At the end, it's about like a lot of punching, and then suddenly, oh no, you don't have to punch. Punching good, but not punching also good. I don't know.
I see what you're saying.
I just have issues with the show.
Maybe season 2 will solve them.
Yeah, because there's going to be a season 2. Now that we've watched this, when it rolls around, probably next year, we'll be ready for it.
Cool beans.
I wish I could talk, sound a little smarter when trying to break the show down and explain why it doesn't totally hit me as like, because the show looks so good. If it had a story to match, it'd be one of the best of the decade. To me, at least. That's all subjective, but
you don't think the second half of the show matches the first half's story?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you can put it that way. I could go on for minutes and hours about how precisely I feel that it fails, but yeah, I feel it falls off in the second half a little bit because it does become much more action oriented, and then it undercuts that, but not in a way that
is satisfying.
Yeah, not in a way that makes like a light bulb go off in my head.
Like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So what was your favorite moment of these last 2 episodes? Like, it was probably one of the fights.
Well, that has to be the
which like particular fight between characters, if there is one.
It was Yellow Hair versus Swordman.
Okay, yeah, because he the guy has a plastic sword,
right? But he's like cursed it and like honed it, filled it with power,
right,
over years.
Yeah, and it's not just a sword; he has a gun and what was the last one when he was like desperately trying to inflict any kind of damage he could on Reagan? He pulls out the gun, that doesn't work. Right. What's the last thing he has?
I can't remember.
It's like a non-weapon type of.
It's something
type
silly.
Of thing. I forget what it is too.
Yeah,
but when he is fighting with
his sword like cuts through rocks and concrete and everything.
Right. And the yellow-haired guy, damn it, dude. I need to look up his name real fast. Cover me.
It's just such a cool scene because he's using like the pieces of rebar in order to fight back, and they're just flying all over the place. And
Taru,
yeah. The way that the buildings and the pieces of concrete move as they're fighting, like as if they're being controlled by another force, which obviously they are because they're both psychic.
Yeah.
It just adds this, I'm about to say, this extra layer of movement.
It does add an extra layer of movement because the camera's moving and what it's capturing is also moving. We were talking about Darling in the Franxx a couple weeks ago, episode 11.
Right.
I really loved that. To me, that was the first time in that show that the animation really
Looked great.
kicked into the gear where it should be all the time. And there was a similar thing going on in that show. It wasn't on a level with Mob Psycho, not even close, really. But yeah, there is an extra layer of movement that really makes you appreciate what's going on and kind of dazzles you.
It's kind of a hallmark of a lot of anime is like terrain deformation in order to show strength.
Sure. Yeah. Speaking of Dragon Ball, as we did earlier, that's
rocks floating and like mountains exploding and all that kind of stuff.
Spirit bombs hovering.
Yeah, it's what is it? I just finished. Boku no Hero does that a lot.
Yeah, characters getting like thrown into a wall or into the ground.
Especially with like All Might because he's just retarded.
He's just retarded.
Just how powerful he is.
Yes, he's very strong.
Like he punches from one side of a city and it blows up the other half.
Yeah, it's a shonen staple at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, One Punch Man, for taking everything to 11.
Terrain deformation definitely a big thing in anime, and this Mob Psycho does it
really well because
much more inventively than most. There are a lot of people like getting thrown into walls in the second half of the show. A lot of people getting flung about and cratering whatever it is that they hit. But then you also have the scenes where everybody's getting all glowy and psychic powery, and everything's like levitating around them and stuff's being flung back and forth really quickly as well. That's one of the things I most appreciate is that the action in the show,
it has a sense of speed.
Yes, it has a sense of like realism in its speed. There's not a lot of slow-mo. There's not a lot of people thinking to themselves during fights and like the camera moving away from the action. There's a little bit of that, but
not as much as in some things.
Yeah, there's characters having to like flip and dodge, and it is very... See, this is an example of a show where the combat really feels tense.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though you know the main characters are... I mean, you can be pretty sure that they're not going to die. There's the fact that the way they're fighting it looks kind of real, looks believable. That in itself is enough to get you invested in what's going on and to have you kind of worried.
And what I think kind of brings its action to a level above what a lot of other things is in specifically when I was talking about terrain deformation before. That happens a lot in anime, and that's usually the terrain reacting to the characters. But in this show, a lot of the times the characters are reacting to the terrain as it moves, rather than it just being
they're the ones who are moving it.
Right. They're more involved with the environment rather than the environment being involved because of them.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah,
I'm saying it poorly, but yeah.
Yeah, they're making use of,
they're making use of all the movement they're creating.
Yeah, like you were talking about the Teru versus Sword Guy fight scene. Sword Guy has to pick up like a metal pipe and use it to combat the guy's like psychic strikes that he's sort of throwing with his sword.
Yeah.
So that's making use of terrain, of the environment. And there are scenes where like a bunch of rubble gets flung up in the air and people are like jumping from one thing to another.
Yeah.
I'm sure this Mob Psycho didn't invent that.
No, it didn't, but it does it really well.
It pulls it off a lot better than a lot of other shows could hope to.
Like when the same frame of Naruto jumps from 6 different trees and he doesn't actually move, he just kind of bounces across them.
Yeah. Those are always scenes where dialogue is going on.
Yeah. I've always wondered, in the Leaf Village, there's got to be a lot of trees because they move really quickly across them, and they have like 20-minute long conversations while just running through trees. Like, how big are these forests?
They're huge. Huge forests.
Huge. I think it's time that we rate these shows, apart from Mob Psycho, of course.
Yep. Typically, we just rank them on a week-by-week basis, but now that the season is over, now that it's dead and buried, thank you, anime god.
Based.
Right.
Anime god.
Now that this is all out of the way, the shows are all done except for Franxx, we're just going to rank them.
All right.
Based on our our impression of the last 12 or 13 episodes of each. Here we go.
Number 5, Kokkoku.
Okay. I put Ramens.
Really?
Yeah, last.
Dead last. Okay.
Yep.
Number 4, Evergarden.
I put Kokkoku.
Okay.
And really, Kokkoku dodges last place because...
The first 3 episodes were strong.
Yeah, or the first however many. Because I was interested at first. And with Ramens, it was never really hitting me.
You said you really liked the first 4 episodes, though. Or
I know,
you said you enjoyed them, I think would be a better way
I
to say
didn't
that.
really like them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what you said to me. So.
Okay.
Quit. Why you always lie?
I definitely did not say that. I probably ranked it last, like on a consistent basis.
We can check.
Yes, we can.
Anyways, number 3, Sora.
But Frank, you put Sora third?
Yup.
I'm surprised at you. I put Franxx.
Okay. Number 2,
Evergarden.
Ramens.
And I put Sora first.
And I put Franxx first.
How can you put Franxx first? I literally don't understand.
We have different tastes.
Yeah, but
it's how much we liked the show, not if it was good.
But those two things should be like pretty closely intertwined.
Well, no, because
Franxx is garbage.
It's garbage, yet you've ranked it second before.
Oh, wow. So what?
I like the show.
Oh my God. Why?
I'm sorry.
It's so bad.
I think it's bad, therefore you should rank it low. How high are you pushing those glasses up on your nose, man? They in your brain at this point?
Just so that I can see. So I can see the screen as a really terrible anime is going on in front of me, and I can realize like how bad it is.
Didn't you just say episode 11 really impressed you with its animation?
Yeah, that's 1 out of 13.
I don't know why I just did that.
That's 1 out of 13.
I liked it. Sorry.
All right. I mean, I think Sora Yori was like clearly the best. It was the only one with characters that I really cared about on a week to week basis.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. Right. I like the show. But there aren't giant robots.
Oh God.
I know.
There's no giant robots in Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens.
No, but it's got a cool soundtrack, and I like the setting.
Honestly, I don't even think it has a cool soundtrack.
I mean, it has the same kind of soundtrack every anime does, where it has like 6 or 7 tracks, and they loop endlessly because they just don't have the money to do it. I mean, by the time you've finished watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, you've heard
the same
that
songs a million times.
Like 700 times.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, this is a tense moment, and now the horns are going to go ba-na-na-na.
It's true that, there are only a handful of themes that are created for each anime in general.
Yeah.
There are exceptions to that. The
Cowboy Bebop being the most notable, probably.
Yeah.
There's a
but
massive soundtrack.
Ping Pong as well. I don't know if it ever played the same track twice.
Was it?
It had a huge electronic soundtrack.
Okay.
Extremely varied within its genre.
It is cheaper than hiring orchestras and jazz musicians because it can be one guy to make the whole thing.
And it was, as far as I know.
But that's cool though that it didn't recycle.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Same songs all the time.
But I don't like the only piece of music that I could hum you from
is the ED.
No. Oh, I could do the ED. Sure, that's real jazzy and fun. But the only piece of music from Ramens that I could hum to, like in the show, is the little part that goes.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, like that to me is filler. That music is just there so that there is music in the background, and it kind of lets the scene float on.
I don't know. Maybe if I watch the shows start to finish, I'd have a different feeling about them. Like when I watch something week by week, I don't really get a great sense of it. When I watch something like compressed into a ridiculously short amount of time, I get a way better idea of how I feel about the show overall.
Yeah, I understand
because it's easier for me to pack the whole story together and the characters and everything.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I agree.
Binge watching.
Yeah.
Speaking of binge watching, if you want to watch Children of the Whales. It's on
Literally,
Netflix.
who would want to do that?
I don't know. Didn't we rate it dead last?
Last season? Yeah, probably. Although we did stick with it to the end. We should bring back the trend of dropping shows if they're
Well,
terrible.
we were gonna drop Franxx at one point, and you said, "Nah, we'll keep it."
Yeah, I did. We shouldn't have done. I mean, to me it was Kokkoku and Ramens were like way worse for me personally.
I'm surprised by that, honestly. I thought because you're like, there's only one good episode of Franxx, and it's just because of the action, and you hate the rest of it. I'm surprised it wasn't last, honestly. I mean, Kokkoku was.
Well, to me, Ramens was boring.
Oh, okay.
That's the worst sin that a show can possibly commit. Anime is for entertainment.
All television is for entertainment, not just anime.
Oh,
I mean, except like documentaries and stuff.
I know what you mean, but it's like Ramens is explicitly it's just supposed to be entertaining. There's like nothing more to it.
It was a light novel,
and to me it even failed to deliver on that. Like,
okay,
whatevs. It's true. Everybody's got different tastes,
and mine are shitty, and that's okay.
Sure is. Thanks for listening, everybody.
We'll be back next week with our first impressions of 10 to 11 spring 2018 shows.
Yeah, that's right. And hopefully they'll be good.
Are we gonna do? Are we gonna do
Fat chance?
Are we gonna do the show that we're bringing in as well that week or no?
No, let's just save that for later.
Okay. All right, then. Until next time, I've been Grenchler.
He sure has.